Well, welcome to Be Well. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jonathan from Your Why. As your moderator, I come to you with 30 plus years experience in mindfulness, wellness, and mental health. And I'm truly grateful to have the opportunity to bring you these conversations with leaders in their field on living mindfully. I've been looking forward to having an opportunity to have our guest on today. I think in the time that we're in, to have the opportunity to laugh and to bring humor is so critically important. And so we're gonna have a good opportunity to do a little bit of that today. Our guest today is Bob Alper. Bob, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Our topic is Have a Laugh. And I just want to let you know, Bob is coming to us from Vermont, where he's quarantining and where you reside. I want to offer you a little bit of background on who Bob is. So you may know of Bob because he's on Sirius XM satellite radio. He's often on between Bob Newhart and Jerry Seinfeld, offering his quick laughs. He has quite a history. He is an ordained rabbi and served the congregation for 14 years. He holds a doctorate from Princeton Theological Seminary, and that prepared him in many ways for 27 years in the field of comedy. You may have seen him on The Early Show, The Today Show, Good Morning America, Showtime, BBC, CNN, and now on YMCA's Be Well. So one thing I want to start with, Bob, is I hear one of your titles or accomplishments are you're the honorary comedic advisor to the Pope.
Yes. Tell you how that happened. I live in a small town in Vermont, and a woman named Rosalie Fox approached me, and she said, Bob, there's a contest that's being held. It was announced on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon when the Pope is coming to America. This was 5 years ago. A large Catholic organization decided to have a joke with the Pope contest. And they asked people to send in the joke that they think the Pope would like most to a website. And I said, Rosalie, I don't do contests, forget it. 2 weeks later, I was in the farmer's market. She said, Bob, the deadline's 2 days from now. Have you entered? I said, now you're really annoying me, Rosalie. But I went home. It was a Sunday. I had nothing to do. I took my camera. I put a joke on it. I sent it in, and I erased the video. And a week later, I got noticed that out of 4,000 contestants from 47 countries, I had won. So I'm the honorary comedic advisor to the Pope. The joke was, I said...
I was going to say, it begs the backstory. You've got to give us that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been married for, at that time, 47 years. So our lives are totally in sync. For example, at the same time I got hearing aids, my wife stopped mumbling. I deliver it better when I'm, But anyway, that was the joke.
It's a tough audience because it's just me being able to respond to you, but I hear other people laughing as well. You have to know that.
Jonathan, I do a lot of Zoom programs, and there are always two choices with Zoom. Either the audience is mic'd or they're muted, and both have ups and downs. If they're muted, for me, it's not that bad. It's like theological research, because I'll say something funny, I'll have no response, and it's like an after-death experience. So on the other hand, if they're not muted,
Bob's going to come back. Bob, so we got
Steve Martin says, what's that?
So we missed you. You froze up a little bit just as you got to when they're not muted.
Okay, so when they're not muted. By the way, I'll watch you. If you wave, it means I can. I'm in rural Vermont, so we don't have a lot of choices. Did I stop again?
You did for just a moment, but you're good.
Is it okay? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll pretend you're all Southerners and speak slowly. So, building up to a joke, you might hear, Harry, get me a Diet Coke when you're in there. And that, of course, interrupts things. So You have, doing stand up on Zoom is a little different.
So I wonder how a rabbi becomes a comedian or a comedian becomes a rabbi. What's the evolution here?
Well, I was always as a 3-year-old. Always was funny in high school. I was the editor of my high school paper, put out an April Fool's edition. And I always say that there's been a lot of humor in my rabbinate. For example, on Rosh Hashanah a few years ago, I conduct high holiday services for about 350 people every year. And the sermon began, I said, for the last 2 weeks, my wife and son were in Peru on vacation. I stayed home to prepare sermons and prepare for the high holidays. You're welcome. And everyone laughed. And then you get serious. There's a Jewish tradition from the Talmud, a teacher named Rabbah. They say he used to begin each lesson with a joke, and then the students would be relaxed, and then they could take in the important, serious message. So in preaching, humor is very important. Teaching, life cycle events, everything. So I always said there's always a lot of humor in my rabbinate, and there's always a lot of rabbi in my humor, because when I do stand up or when I write or whatever I'm doing, I always make sure it's clean, not homophobic, not racist. I want people to leave saying he was funny, and not leave saying he was funny, but I sort of feel guilty about laughing at this, that, or the other thing. So
I appreciate that. One of the things I think of, because we're talking about relating it to living mindfully, is I think with humor and the opportunity to laugh, there's a quickening. It brings you into that moment. There's a presence here and now. And so I think humor facilitates us being present and not being future, past. And so I really appreciate that. And also, I can just think of just all the benefits that come through it. But one of the things you said was you see laughter as sacred, and that was part of your calling. So if you'd help explain that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the area of interpersonal relations, I always say you can't hate someone with whom you've shared a laugh. And so I do a show called the Laugh and Peace Tour. About maybe 20% of the shows I do are with Muslim and Christian comedians. We have a group, Reverend Susan Sparks and Gibran Salim, and we adore doing these shows. And when people laugh together, it brings people together. It humanizes people. They're sharing something. They're feeling loose, and it's a perfect way to bring people together. Laughter also is healing. It's physically helpful. It's emotionally helpful. Probably the most succinct line or whatever that I came across. The high point of my career was when I was performing at a show. I forget where it was, but afterwards, a woman who I knew to be dying of cancer came up to me, and she said, she said, for an hour and a half, I forgot I was sick.
That's beautiful.
And for me, just to be in a position to be able to give something like that to that woman, it's humbling. It's elevating to be able to use humor to give that kind of gift. And I didn't know she, but that's what happens with humor. And I always quote Maya Angelou. She says, people will forget what you say and they'll forget what you do, but they don't forget how you make them feel. And if I can stand up and say something that will make someone smile or make someone laugh, well, I've made them feel good. And I am so grateful that I have this talent, ability to be able and to be in a position where I can make people feel good. And that's what humor does.
That's beautiful, because you share, you create, and you foster, and you share an experience with somebody. And as you said earlier, it kind of breaks down any barriers or differences that we have, because we're just sharing that experience, sharing that moment. I know you've got a program called Quick Laughs.
Right.
And as I understand, something like 6,500 emails that you send to each morning, a quick laugh. So what was it for? What's the program? And I want to know what today's quick laugh was.
Today, what was it? I'll look it up. Today was, oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I'll explain what it is. Back in March, I realized we're in trouble. We're in real trouble, and humor is going to help people. So I decided I'm sure everyone who's listening gets tons and tons of emails with, watch this 4-minute YouTube or watch this half hour of this. Or people don't have time for that, even if they're not sitting at home doing nothing. So I decided to do what's called a quick laugh every day at 10 o'clock in the morning. People will get a 40 to 60-second snippet from my routine. And that's all. And it stops. That's the end. That's all they get. But it picks them up. Today's, I talk about flying, how I fly out of a small airport near my home in Vermont once in a while. Most of the time I fly out of Albany, New York. It's a mid-sized airport, about an hour and a quarter from our house. But if I can get a flight out of Rutland, they have an 8-passenger plane, goes in and out of Boston 3 times a day. That's all. And you can connect with flights. So I'm there often enough that they know me. Last winter, one of the TSA people, they were going through my suitcase. He looked up, he said, Bob, it's pretty chilly out. You should have packed your gray V-neck sweater. And then I said, I was sitting in this little area, and they announced Flight 64 is ready for departure. Will now be boarding Bob. I was the only passenger. I got on the plane, put on my seatbelt. The pilot turned around and said, so, where do you want to go? And I think yesterday I had the thing on personals ads. I said, whenever I'm in Florida, I like to look at the Jewish weeklies and see the personals ads. One of them was, I'm 83 with a 2-year-old left hip, still under warranty. Or my favorite personals ad, single Jewish woman seeks single Jewish man with dead mother.
So many of us can appreciate that. My background is Catholic. My wife is Jewish, and if she's not listening, I can identify. If
Right.
Rebecca's not listening, I can definitely identify with that joke. That's
Yeah.
very good.
So if people want to sign up, here's the thing. All they need to do is go on my website, which is bobalper.com, just BOBALPER.com. And on the website, first of all, on the opening page, you can link to a video of me doing stand-up, a demo, a video of Laugh and Peace, the 3 of us, snippets from our show. And in the upper right-hand corner, you just put your email address in, and starting tomorrow morning, you'll get a fresh new quick laugh every day. I'm scheduling them all the way through the end of September, and I've got some other ideas. I'll probably start rerunning it again until we're out of our houses. I'm going to keep sending these things out. I've got about 90 separate ones all through.
So you're obviously a prolific writer if you're putting these together on a daily basis. I know you have, I think, 3 different books out there. If you can give me just kind of a sense of the thrust or focus of those different books.
Sure. One is a cartoon book, which I did with a cartoonist in Minneapolis. It's called A Rabbi Confesses. And the other 2 are more important. Hang on. This is my first book. There we go. It's called Life Doesn't Get Any Better Than This, The Holiness of Little Daily Dramas. And my second book is called Thanks, I Needed That, and Other Stories of the Spirit. Between the 2 books, there are about 78 or 80 separate short chapters. They're all true stories, a little bit of humor, but they're very poignant, very moving chapters. People tell me all the time. I think the most commented on chapter of all the chapters was a story called A Woman Named Elizabeth Batt, B-A-D-T, where I talk about being asked to officiate at a funeral of a woman who had no rabbi. She was housebound for about 10 years. And the funeral director came to her apartment to get the information. And anyway, long story short, and it's not that long a story, but no one came to her funeral. No one. And how, poignant and how sad that was. And how we need community. Anyway, that's one of the stories. There are a lot of stories. They're available through Amazon, through this Kindle version, or through my website.
So, so Bob, I want to challenge you. I know people coming to our conversation are looking for a laugh, and this is your wheelhouse. So give me a few of the best of Bob.
Well, it's always the newest that I like, because I heard a story the other day about a couple was celebrating their 65th birthday together. They were born around the same time, and a genie appeared. The genie said, "You've been lovely people. I'm going to grant each of you one wish." The wife said, "Oh, I've always dreamed of taking an around-the-world cruise." And poof, she had 2 tickets in her hand. The husband said, "Well, as for me, I've always wanted to have a wife who's 30 years younger than I am." And poof, he was 95.
Well done. Didn't quite go where I was thinking. That was very well done.
It's a good joke. Anyhow, there's tons of jokes.
I'll let you bring through a few more, but just with that particular joke, what's where's the creativity come? How does one come about bringing through humor jokes like that? Where do you get your material?
But that's the big question. I don't know who writes jokes. There's so many jokes. I never have found out anyone who's written a joke. I've written material in my routine, but they're not jokes. They're true stories or fanciful stories. Things that I might make up. Or I've got a line. I talk about when my kids were teenagers. I said that the Bible talks about kids that age. According to one of the commentaries, the reason Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac at the age of 12 and not 13 is because at 13, it wouldn't have been a sacrifice. And this is the kind of joke that the whole audience laughs, but I get these pockets of intense laughter, and they have teenagers at home. That's where they're going home to. So but jokes, it's hard to tell. People will tell me a joke, "Rabbi, I heard a great new joke," and it was a joke that I hit the side of my crib when my father told it to me when I was 4. The jokes go around. And I have a joke that I'm not going to tell you. It's a long joke, but that I would tell. I've been telling for years, and I became friendly with a man in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia, who sent me translations that he got from a pre-World War I German Jewish joke book. And one of those jokes, that was it. That was in that book. But jokes go back, centuries and centuries.
Well, to that point, I remember reading something about humor in the Holocaust, and you cited how important that was to Holocaust survivors and just how, or those that perished, but how they coped during that period of time.
Yeah, I couldn't have even imagined it, but I finally, there's a book called It Kept Us Alive, Humor in the Holocaust. And it talks about how when the Jews were imprisoned in their towns before they were sent off to be murdered, the Nazi captors made them put on plays. And they did, they weren't comedy, but there were so many singers and actors and comedians and writers and musicians, and they would put on these shows, and they said, the physicians would say, "We have no more medicine. Jewish songs will have to be the medicine we have." And in the concentration camps, in the barracks, they would put on plays, not guffaw-inducing. A lot of it was mocking their captors behind their backs as a means of survival. And most people, of course, tragically did not survive. But there was a form of humor that helped cope with the terrible, terrible pain and difficulty that they were dealing with.
There is a colleague of mine in psychology, Dr. Edie Ager, who, when she was in a camp, she used her dance skills and dance background as a young teenager to really as a coping mechanism so that she wouldn't perish, that they kept her around to perform dances and entertain, similar to what you're speaking to.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and not to diminish at all the Holocaust experience or even make a relationship to the time we're in, but with COVID, we're all going through a struggle. We're set in this time that has no comparison for most of us in terms of changing our life and the impact on our lifestyle. For yourself, you're quarantining. How does humor, laughter come to play? What would you recommend for us that are needing that lift, needing something to have a bright smile each day?
Well, in addition to Quick Laugh, there's so much out there, videos and movies, and it's just last night I was watching a movie, and it was a very serious movie, and I finished and I said, "Okay, it's time for Curb Your Enthusiasm."
Yeah.
And there's Larry David behaving ridiculously, and it cheered me, it changed my mood. So there are lots of resources. But not to diminish the terrible seriousness of the time we're going through, the anxiety. It's really it's very hard. We're fortunate, by the way, to live in Vermont. This is a wonderful place to live. I think right now the number of people hospitalized with COVID in the state of Vermont is zero.
Wow.
Zero. There was a death 2 weeks ago, and the previous death in the state was in the middle of June. We have a very compliant population, where it's a rural population. We have a Republican governor who's doing the right things, and we're very lucky to live here.
So I know in the field of psychology, it's often spoken to that you want to laugh each day, you want to smile. Just by smiling, it changes your affect. By laughing, it releases oxytocin, the feel-good hormone, so to speak. And so Quick Laughs is a good one. I know our time is running, and so I want to give you an opportunity to bring through some more of your stand-up material for us.
Well, I like this story because my daughter told it to me, so I'm very proud of her. But I say I was at IKEA one time. It was summertime, and I had my dog with me, and there's no way I was going to leave him in the car, of course. And I saw other people were taking dogs into the IKEA, so I took him, and a guard stopped me. He said, "Sir, is that a service animal?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Describe his duties." I said, "Brown." Or what else? I talk about.
That's good. I like your delivery, and then I'm your audience, so I'm sorry. I might be a little slow with the.
No, that's all right. No, it's got to go 3,000 miles.
Exactly.
I talk about about my wife. How I met my wife. I was home from college, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine whose younger sister was hosting a slumber party for 6 girls with whom she just graduated high school. We crashed the party, and some reason they were on the floor sitting on the floor of the kitchen. I looked down. I saw one really cute girl wearing pink baby doll pajamas, and I thought to myself, "Wow, I bet she would look hot in clothes." So with comedy, you always want the last word.
Exactly.
When I begin my show, I start out by saying because of the way this worked, I almost feel guilty about what I'm doing to the audience because it's such a setup, and then I smack them down. But I say this whole business about being a rabbi and a stand-up comic came together in one moment. A few years ago, I was changing planes in Philadelphia, and a woman walked over to me, did a double take. She said, "You're Rabbi Alper, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You probably don't remember me," and I didn't. She said, "But I was a kid in your congregation here in Philadelphia during the early 80s. And I used to watch the way you would teach and lead services and counsel and preach. And so I decided to become a rabbi anyway."
Another good example of that pregnant pause, and then you deliver.
Right.
And so, Bob, I have to ask: are you typically jovial, joyful? Where in your given day, you mentioned Larry David, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. But what makes you laugh? Where do you find your humor? But more important, your own affect throughout the day. Is this just who you are?
I'm very fortunate. 51 years of a terrific marriage. I mean, that enough will tell you. So I'm very lucky. I've had sadness in my life, as we all have. I don't go around being funny. My wife doesn't think I'm that funny because I'm always around, but she laughs sometimes. Um, but unlike many comedians, I don't think I'm neurotic. I'm not compensating for a terrible childhood, and a lot of comedians do. Um, so I'm fortunate that way, and my humor. I'm suffering right now because humor it's a positive addiction. It's a healthy addiction, and if you're a comedian or you're funny, you want to make people laugh. And I don't have any audiences. I can't do stand up. I haven't done a show since March, and I miss it terribly. So it makes me sad. But every opportunity to be able to make people, even right now, making you laugh, and hopefully 44 other people, um, if they're laughing, that feels really good. Comedy is so rewarding. And I just, I want to, that's what I want to do. I'll go into the supermarket and make people laugh. My wife's a psychotherapist, or she's just retired. And whenever I do a show locally, I identify myself as people don't know. I'm Sherry Alper's husband, who tells people jokes in the aisles of Shaw's supermarket. Most people don't know I go around the world doing stand up. Some people do.
That's awesome. Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for bringing light and laughter to my day and to the 44 plus others. Truly a pleasure. I will join and get those quick laughs from you on a daily basis. We can all use humor and laughter, but really appreciate your time, and all of you that joined us. Thank you very much. And until next time.
Like I said, one more thing.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, I hope maybe somebody saw it, in the Sunday edition of the San Diego paper, Sandy Dolby did a terrific article about me and about Laugh in Peace. I'm sure it's on their website if you just Google Alper on the Times Union. It's Times Union. That's the name of the paper.
Union Tribune.
Union
Yeah.
Tribune. Okay. Just Google it, and she did a great job, and so it's right there in your paper.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for your
Thanks for
time,
having me.
sharing your talents and humor with us. Be well. Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.